Hey guys, welcome to the Laying Foundations podcast. This is your co-host Davis Hambrick. Joining alongside me today is Walker. What's up, man?
What's up, dude? You having a good day so far?
Yeah, I'm excited about this one. What about you?
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. I think y'all are gonna like it. It's not gonna be a very long one, but it's something that we've been wanting to do for a while. We've been really working to develop these and just kind of make them our own and what we want to see going forward. So, Davis, I'm gonna let you talk a little bit about kind of what we want to do and what we want this podcast to be. But I really think that the listener is gonna enjoy it.
Yeah, guys, I appreciate that, Walker. I think that this is a cool opportunity. We kind of just wanted to get this out and share, our why. Walker and I have talked to a lot of amazing guests, like he's previously spoken about. But we have started to see as we're walking through this podcast, man, we really care about this. We really care about this, and we think we at least owe to us to get a single direction. These are our values. This is what we care about, and we're going to get this out. And so if these are values that you like, that's a part of you, try to apply them. But we really just want to get these out and share with you guys, what we got going on, and what we think it makes us great, and what we think can help our industry. So if we just want to go ahead and start it, Walker, let's go with our first one. Be a problem solver and a people connector. And I am just going to give you credit for this because this was one of the first things whenever we started first talk about values was, man, this is a cool phrase. But tell me a little bit about why you really like that phrase and where that came from.
Man, I don't know where it came from, to be honest. I think one day someone might have said it, but honestly, I think one day I was just sitting down. I was like, this is what I want to do. I know people who, there's a lot of people on the internet, and I don't know, I'm trying to think of a couple of them, but they know people. They reach out, they connect with people, and like they can find anyone that they wanted to. If they wanted to meet, like I don't know, Daniel Craig. They could find someone who knew Daniel Craig and go out there, and then they could finally get to a point where they can meet him. And so be a problem solver and people connector. So people come to us, and they might have something going on, or they might need advice on something. And for one, I love to solve problems. I want to help solve someone's problems. Like, you sit down and someone starts talking to you, automatically my mind goes to, how can I make this better? How can I help solve their problem? How can I uh, help them with what they're going through? And then the people connectors, like, well, if I can't solve their problem, or if I can't help them, then maybe I know someone who does. And so maybe I can connect them with someone else who they need in their life that can either help them solve a problem, that can help them with something they're going through, or really whatever. So to me, that's what that is. It's helping someone in a time of need and whatever they're going through. And if I can't do it, then let me help you find someone who can.
Yeah.
So Davis, what do you think about it?
No, I love that. I mean, that's perfect because I think part of the first part of being a problem solver, you have to be present and be listening. That's going to tie into our second one, but you have to be a great listener. If you're not listening and you don't want to help, then you can't be a problem solver. So I think that's a key one. And then the people connector I see in you and what I try to emulate is, I have this network of friends, of people I know, and I'm not going to be the guy that's just going to stay with my own ideas. I want to share them. I want to get them out. I want us to work together. And if you really think about it, that was one of the things Alex Willis talked about is this industry is so big, guys. Let's
Right.
all just join together. And it's not about the guys that just keep all the trade secrets. Let's share it. Let's work together. And I love that, Walker. I think you did great with that. Not only is it a good phrase, but it's a good meaning behind that. And so just going to the second one, our second value, and I guess we call it value phrases, is listen to understand, not respond. And I love this. I think this is something we both kind of heard around the same time and brought it together. What do you think about this one, Walker?
Dude, I mean, this one just it is perfect, not just for a podcast. It's perfect for life, because I feel like so many people, when they go about their day, they have meetings or conversations with someone, or they call someone, they're always constantly, and I do this all the time, I'm very guilty of it. They're always constantly trying to think about, all right, cool, like I hear what they say, but what am I going to say next to that? How am I going to answer them? Instead of just really sitting there and trying to determine, what are they actually saying to me? What is the true meaning of what they're saying? Because typically people are going to be telling you one thing, but in reality, there's a whole nother meaning behind it that you kind of have to, it's like an onion. You have to peel back the layer. You have to get down to what's actually going on, and really determine, what are they trying to say. And that's where the listening aspect comes in. And honestly, anyone can do it, in my opinion. It just takes practice, and it takes constantly focusing on what someone's saying and really listening to it, and not just automatically going to, all right, cool, how am I going to respond to this? So let me say something real quick just because I want it to be heard, or I want to sound smart. uh and it just takes practice. It takes time, it takes humility, it takes a second to just sit down and say, what are you trying to say to me? And Davis, you do a very good job of this. It's just following up with questions, following up with uh, uh, clarifying questions, as someone would say. It's just like, all right, cool. So basically, what you're saying is, and then go into it. And you do a great job of this on the podcast, talking in person, and it's just trying to understand more and more what someone's talking about, and not just what they're saying.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I think I have a long way to go in that
We
area.
both do, for sure.
I appreciate you saying that. For me, man, I mean, that hits home. Listening to understand and not respond. I mean, you have to be attentive and be vigilant in it. But one of the first things of when I thought about this verse is, we're people of faith, and we're people that God guides your life. And if you're not there, that's okay. But we just want to share this wisdom. It's Colossians 3:12. Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves. And the first thing he says is, clothe yourselves with compassion. And in a world of construction, or I'm out in the field and I see guys that just desperately need someone to show them compassion. I need someone to actually listen, to understand, not respond. This is one of the values that I think that Walker and I really, 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 really try to emulate every single day. Is we want to show compassion and not just, like you said, listen to, okay, how do I respond? It's listen to, I'm going to sit here and get with you on this level. And Jesus was the ultimate example of coming to your level and where you're at in life. And so, compassion and listening to understand, that's where we get that. But just really quickly, I'm going to try to do the best I can. You made a good point. I think this can be tied to leadership as well. As a real leader is someone who listens to understand, not respond. We had a great example of the podcast. I think it was Nick Chapello, our second podcast, and he talked about a superintendent that literally would have a meeting, and most people think, all right, superintendent, he's the man, he's going to show us, this is what's going on. He literally let every single person go around the room, talk about everything that's going on, coordinate, and if they didn't mention it, he would finally say something. But he had a list, and he saw that each time, wow, okay, these guys are paying attention, they're attentive, and that's what it's about. And I just really love that. I think that's a good example of just trying to listen and get on someone's level and not worry about all the thousand things that I've going on in my head, the thing I got to worry about. So that's a big one for me. And so
No, I
our
agree.
third one, moving into that one, is investing in others. And Walker, what do you think about that one?
I mean, that one, I was just about to say, that one kind of goes with compassion as well. And it's just, and you were talking about on one of the past shows, getting a good time, a great conversation with one of the guys on your job site. And it's just, kind of open up to you. He's like, hey, I'm going through this, and then it's just being willing to listen. Honestly, that's what it means to me. And again, it goes with the listen to understand, but a lot of compassion. Most people just want to be heard. And it just goes with, hey, I recognize everyone's going through something. I know you're going through something. I know I'm going through something. I know the random person on the street's going through something. It's like, how can I help you? How can I recognize what you're going through, and also, be able to be a person who not only shows compassion, but is just a friend. And honestly, a lot of compassion comes from just being a friend. And to me, that's what that means. It's just, uh, investing in others is putting your time into their life to where you can help them grow, and in return they're going to help you grow as well, because it's always a two-way street. A lot of the times people think, well, I'm just pouring time into this person, or someone's just pouring time into me, and that might be the case, but at the same time you're getting something from that. The other party who is not doing the quote unquote pouring into, investing into, is also getting something from that. And that's just, again, listening. That's recognizing what's going on and saying, oh man, like I can learn something from every single person I talk to. And Davis, what do you think on it?
Yeah, I think you hit it. I mean, that's what it is. It's about investing in people, and sometimes that's just sitting there and listening. And I know that ties to the second one, and it might seem a little like it's a repeat, but investing in others, you have to be looking for that. You have to be wanting to go find someone that's willing to do that. And
Sure.
that I keep going back to you're willing to slow down enough to think about that, because I can remember a time in my life, and I'm not far removed from it, where I was just so about me and what my schedule has and everything I got to do. I'm not worried. I'm not worried. I got to get stuff done by about like, and I just would struggle. I really would. I would struggle at making relationships with people. And that was a part of me that I think was a little more OCD of like, oh, I got to have everything perfect. But I started to realize there were people that, weren't as OCD as me, but they were making great relationships. And guess what? They're moving ahead and they're, investing in other people. And wow, they have a team. And it's not just Davis working on himself. It's once I'm able to be so secure, I'm able to invest in someone else. And
Yeah.
hey, now we're both going. And so investing in others is a huge one to me. I think it's imperative to be on a construction team. You know, if I am the low man on the totem pole and there's all these other field guys and the superintendent isn't investing in anybody, you know, what are we doing? Because that superintendent has 30, 40 years and he knows that I'm trying to get there. So why is he not investing in me? And I think I have had some of the best opportunities on every job site to have a superintendent that's willing to slow down and talk to me. And Walker, I think you got something to say. What would you like to say?
Yeah, and like, I'm just gonna add, it's a daily practice as well. So all these values that we are putting out on here are something that we don't do them perfectly, but it's something that our next one coming up is, I'll give you a hint. It's accountability, basically, but it's like these are helping us stay accountable to what we want to believe in, what we want to follow for our lives. And it's the daily thing. It's like even this week, I have not invested in others very well, or put in the time and necessary, even finding a time to do this podcast. I'm like, Davis, I'm sorry, man, I got this, I'm trying to get there, and I didn't do a great job of doing that, even with other relationships in my life, saying like, oh, I know I got this, and it's just, and that happens. It will come up. There will be weeks like that, but it's just coming back into, all right, cool, I got to sit down, I got to make sure that everyone's on the same page. I got to invest time into Davis, I got to invest time into Caroline, I got to invest time to my parents, I got to invest time to my friends, and it's coming together and saying, all right, cool, it's not all about me, it's about others as well, and just how can I help that. And that goes into our next one, which is welcome feedback, which in parentheses I had next to it accountability, because I want to be held accountable. I know Davis wants to be held accountable. I know that a lot of people out there, sometimes I know that a lot of people out there want to be held accountable, even if you don't want to be held accountable. But because honestly, it stinks. It does to be called out on things. But the more you are called out on things and held accountable to what you believe in and what you say, the more freedom you get. Honestly, it's like Jocko Willink, free, what is it,
Discipline is freedom.
yeah, discipline equals freedom, and it's like being held accountable, being disciplined, just going to give you more freedom. Davis, what do you think on this?
Well, man, it's a loaded question right there, because if you think about accountability, I think of naturally something that is something I do not love. Just being completely honest, but it's something that men need in their lives.
That's for sure.
We've talked about this on a more personal level, but accountability, I think, is one of the hardest things you can do. But kind of like Jocko said, discipline equals freedom. Doing it and having people to keep you accountable in your life, and even trying to call someone out because you're able to keep them accountable, is one of the best things you can do. And John Maxwell talks about, I know you're already going to laugh at me, but John Maxwell talks about, like, we have blind spots, and
Right.
he doesn't think you can find that blind spot, because guess what? It's a blind spot. You can't see
See it.
something.
Yeah.
So the only way you're going to be able to do that is you got to listen, and you're going to have to be able to take that feedback from somebody. And this is it's one of the hardest things to do. You're just going to have to keep trying and keep trying. I mean, I'm still terrible at it, but what I think of when I think of accountability is, okay, you're able to listen, and now you're willing to accept feedback. You're now able to grow. It's like almost exponentially, because again, you're willing to work with someone else, and welcoming feedback will change your life. Jasper Smith talked about that and really gave us a really good trend of what it means to work together and to really accept feedback, because he'll be the first one to admit to you that, hey, yeah, I've only got to where I'm at now because I was able to listen and willing to have those hard
Right.
conversations.
Let's just it's just giving someone the permission to speak into your life. Or it's like, one of my favorite things that and I feel like we've done a good job on this. Some days we forget to, but and typically in most interviews after the scene, what our listeners don't hear is that, when we're talking to our guests or to people who have been on stage multiple times, who have had podcasts, who speak more than we do, we love to ask them, hey, what can we do better? How can we speak better? How can we do this podcast better? And we want them to give us hard things. We want them to say, hey, you need to do this better. You need to do this better. You didn't do this very good. And we try to welcome that. And honestly, it hurts your ego. It really does. Because you're like, man, I think I do that pretty well, or I thought I did at least. And to hear that you don't, or that you need to improve on it, it definitely hurts. But in the long run, it helps a whole lot, because I believe, and I've heard people say, my mom even, she said, from the first podcast that we've had to now, just the way that we've spoken, or the way that the whole process has gone, has drastically improved. And some of our listeners might not agree, but I think so, and I agree on that, just by myself speaking and not saying or ha or like as much.
Right.
And that comes from feedback, comes from people telling you what to do better.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe your mom's the only listener we have, but if that's the case, then hey,
That's
there
all
you go.
right.
But really quickly, and we'll move on. But I just love this because I just thought about it. You know, hey, accountability, and I think about it, it's something I don't like doing. I am naturally a guy that is a peacemaker and stays away from conflict, and I'll let someone slide a lot, or get away with a lot of things. I'm thinking about the job site, and being young, I don't really have the authority to tell guys these things, but I have to say something in a way to be accountable, but also have to be compassionate with how I do it. So I talked about something with Aunt Melissa this week, and y'all will get to meet her. She's one of our she's my aunt, obviously, but she's been helping us lead us through Valley. So I'm trying to get this out quickly, but we just walked through an example where I was fed up. I honestly was. I was fed up at work, and we were at this foreman's meeting, and I've been hearing the same issue over and over again that we've already been told, like, hey, we've handled it. We don't need to keep bringing this up. And I let everybody know, you know, not rudely, but pretty sternly. And then I felt an adrenaline rush and a beat. Like I felt like I was starting to get shaky. And so I just took a breath and stop talking and let everybody say, oh, okay, well, thank you for letting us know. We forgot about that. You reminded us. But I was so fired up in that moment, I had to take a minute. And it's hard for me. It really is. Naturally, I am not someone that just calls somebody out.
Yeah. Firm, like Nick Chappell said, firm but fair.
Right.
And it takes practice, and like you were just saying, it's not something you do on a daily basis, but life's about doing hard things. The more you do hard things and the more you do things that you do not want to do, the better you're going to be, honestly, at everything. It's the people who stay in the exact same spot, or who complain about the exact same thing for their entire life, are the ones who don't ever do anything hard or new. And it's like, honestly, that's something that I'm passionate about. I hate it so much. It's like, if you complain about something, then fix it, take care of it,
Right.
change it, do something different, and go and make your life better, make this issue better, make this relationship better. And don't just sit there and complain about it all the time. Go fix it. Honestly, I mean, go fix it.
Problem solver.
Right. Exactly. And so going from that, we got on a little rant, but our next one is lead from behind. And this kind of goes with what we were talking about as well. It's like my thought process behind lead from behind is, instead of being the one who is like the quote unquote boss, or the guy who's quote unquote, leader who is out there in front pulling, charging ahead, it's like be the leader, a wolf pack. I think there's a whole book about it and videos and stuff, that the leader of the pack is typically the one that is in the very back, because he makes sure that the slowest people in his pack are taken care of and are kept up with and are not left behind. And so by leading from behind, you take even the person who is the slowest in your organization or your job, whatever, and you make sure that they're being pushed along and encouraged, and like, hey, come on, we got to pick it up a little bit, let's go, you got it. Davis, I'm sure you have something similar thought behind that, but to me, that is my definition of lead from behind. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a good example. I mean, that's good imagery. I never thought about specifically the wolf pack, but I love that because, you know, I think of it takes humility. It
Yeah.
takes someone that
Good.
is willing to be back there. And you're right, it is from behind, and we're helping guys guide them forward. And I think that's a lot of investing in others. But you have to be the one that isn't looking for the spotlight. You're going to be the first one. You're going to be the first one in, the last one out the door. But there's also a cool saying that first will be last, and last will be first.
Right.
And I believe that true heartedly. And the other thing I think of is those who serve others will make a true impact. And I think I'm big about entree leadership, but that's Dave Ramsey in a what's the word?
Nutshell.
There you go. Thank you, Walker. Those who serve others make a true impact. And servant leadership, that's the only way to really be a leader, because you're not thinking about yourself. You're thinking about how I get people there.
Right.
And if I can, I'll bring a good example. I'm not going to mention his name because I don't know if I can bring up his name. I don't know if he'd want me put him out on the old internet. He's an older fellow, but he's a guy at our job site now that the epitome of being a leader, not looking for the spotlight.
Cool.
He's cleaning the office before we have meetings. He's taking trash out. He'll go escort anybody on the federal job that we need to. He'll go stay till 9 o'clock at night, and he was the first one there. The guy is a guy that lives for others, and
Awesome.
I don't know where we would be without him, because he's literally the glue that keeps us all together at this job site. And that's what I think of, is a guy that's just willing to do it all and give himself up for others. And that's what I think of.
Yeah, that's good. And again, that takes practice, and it's some people might be born with more of a servant leadership, but some people, it's like, hey, I don't have to be first. I can take a second and step back a little bit and let someone else go. And that's something for my life. I got to remember that all the time. Like, hey, I walk fast. I have big strides. I'm 6'3". I like to walk, and I typically will end up in the front. I'm like, wait, sometimes I got to take a step back. I got to let someone else go, and that's just like a physical real world example, not an organizational one, but I think it applies. It's just who here needs some encouragement that I can stand behind and say, hey, man, you got it. Let's go.
Yeah. It also takes me 4 strides for your one. So yeah.
Oh man, I have to slow down all the time when I walk with people. I'm like, I'm sorry. Slow down.
Not to mention you don't drive ever, you always walk. So
gotta stay in shape, man, while I can at Auburn, walking everywhere. Man, so that brings us to our last one, which is simplify with a period. And Davis, what do you like about this one?
What I like about it, Walker, is I've been in a world, in a brain of, I made things way too overcomplicated, and that's what OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, guys. I truly had it. I know I mentioned a lot, but that was my fault a few years ago, and I made things way too complicated. And what I really think of when I see that is Amazon has some rule about big decisions that they take about whenever they get to like 70%, it's some number and around there, 60, maybe 70, maybe it's 75, I don't know. But it's around that time. Whenever they get that amount of percent, if they think whatever they're talking about, they make a decision, because never in life will you have 100% of it. And if we keep waiting every single time to have 100%, we're never going to get there. And honestly, Walker, we didn't have it all figured out, and we still don't have it figured out. And somehow we have this podcast. So that's what I think of.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's really great. And I think that's definitely what it means. It's just taking something that most people will make very complicated. I mean, honestly, using the podcast as an example, if you look at it from a macro perspective, it's very big. It's like, oh man, starting a podcast, talking every week, getting this out there is huge. But in reality, like, sure, it is huge, or it can be, I guess. We try to make it simple, but just taking something massive and just simplify it. What is your next step that you have to do in order to get to your goal? And for us, our first step was meeting together. We're like, hey, let's start a podcast, right? The next step was, cool, what do we need for our podcast? Well, there's this guy that we had, this guy on already doing a podcast that we have, Gareth. Well, let's talk to him about it. It's cool. Let's reach out to Gareth. So we reached out to Gareth. We met with him. What's the next step? Well, we need a mic. All right, cool. Let's order a mic. Next, and it's just, what is the next thing that you have to do in order to get to your goal? And you can apply that to everything. Make it simple. Simplify this massive problem. Make it easy. Do the next step. And that's what I think about when you say simplify with a period. I like the period. The period makes it simple.
Yeah, and I think that's a kudos to you for this one. You came up with that one, and what is it like the play on words, having the period after
Right.
really helps. But what that just made me think of, Walker, if I can really quickly, was I think construction.
Hmm.
We can make it as overcomplicated as possible, but
That's
the
good.
guys that succeed and do really well, they make things simple. They have stuff planned out. That's great. Everybody can plan things out, but they make it simple. They don't make it overcomplicated. Overcomplicated. They don't shoot themselves in the foot. And so when I think about that, construction is a bunch of good old boys and gals that are just trying to make it happen, trying to get it as simple as possible and kind of tune out the external noise. And I really just sounded like Nick Saban there. So I'm going to try to end with that.
No, I mean I completely agree. And it's honestly even the simplify I can't even say the word. It comes into play too when you're explaining things to other people that might not be in your industry. It doesn't have to be construction. It's like I have a lot of people ask me, "Oh, what's your major?" I'm like, "Oh, building science." And majority of the time, they're like, "Well, what is that?" I'm like, "Well, basically, we manage risk, and honestly, and that's what a GC does. But I'll point to a building. I say, we'll get the plans for that building, and we will build that building. That is basically what we do." And that's not all. That's literally doesn't even scratch the surface of what we do, But for someone who is not in our industry, they don't know that, and that is enough to tell them exactly what a general contractor does. And if they want to go in a little bit more in depth, that's cool. Here, this, we also do this, this, and this, and we get
I see it.
subcontractors, we got architects.
Not to take this away from you here, but you just made me think of this, and I think this may be the Holy Spirit talking to me. One of the things I had a hard time doing was I'm gonna take this to the gospel and witnessing to people. One of the hardest things I had to think was, oh, I gotta tell them the whole Bible right now, and I gotta get them saved, and if
Yeah,
not, it's not gonna work out. And I just had to learn the lesson that okay, you
little
plant
seed.
a seed, there you go, you
Yep.
plant a seed, and I had to learn that, and you know, simplify it, guys. Like you said, I love that analogy of, or whatever you would, simile, metaphor, whatever you want to say, that imagery of, yes, this building, that's what we do. We get these plans, we build it, and you just
Yep.
plant a seed. And now, as you have that relationship, guess what? That's what investing in others is. Really, you're
Yeah,
you're
planting a seed.
extending that process. So
That's so good. Well, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. I know it's not what we normally do, but I really hope that you got at least one thing from it, or maybe took away one of the values that we've tried to create for our podcast for laying foundations. We have a lot of awesome guests coming up. We got some really good ones planned in the next few weeks. I really know that y'all are going to enjoy and learn a ton from, including a few of our professors from Auburn. So if you've been interested about what professors do or their background in history, et cetera, then we're gonna have them on as well. So you get to hear from them a little bit. But Davis, man, this has been awesome. I really enjoyed it. I really love the fact that we are doing this journey together and got a chance to take on these values and make them our own. But hope you guys have a great day and enjoy this podcast.